What's up, Cancer? This is your girl, Niara, and I am back with another informative video, okay? So go ahead, grab your snacks, your beverages, but most importantly, grab that notebook, that journal, and that pen because you know I have prompts to get you through, okay? So we're going to jump right into it. If you see me look up, down, left, right, I am referencing my notes, okay? Because I don't want to miss anything, so I write it all down. Okay, so I know you saw the title, right? The architecture of your life, time, power, and what you are ready to hold, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into this, all right? Because this is not a busy week, but it is a defining one. So Cancers, I have a lot going on kind of week, but this is a point of no return week, which is just as important, right? We're talking about the point of no return. And that is because every single transit happening right now is not asking you, what do you want? And we're already at the first prompt, so get ready. The transits this week are asking, what are you willing to be responsible for? And that's a completely different conversation because, truth being told, responsibility isn't cute and it's not fun either, right? So responsibility isn't anesthetic. Responsibility is weight. It's heavy, it's gravitational. And this week, the weight is landing in your 10th house of identity, legacy, and visibility. So let's be very clear from the beginning. This is not about your goals per se, Cancers. This is about your name, your reputation, your authority, and the version of you the world will have to recognize. And what that version and once that version is chosen, Cancers, you don't get to unknow her because you're already showing this to the world, your community, right? So let's get into the main transit, which is happening today, March 25th. And that is the Sun conjunct Saturn, right? That's your 10th house. That Sun conjunct Saturn is bringing that theme of legacy is not a dream, it's a decision. That's what this aspect, I say transit, I meant to say aspect. The Sun conjunct Saturn, that's exactly what this aspect is bringing. Legacy is not a dream, it is a decision. And so let's go ahead and get further into that and what I mean by that, because we're starting here because Cancers, this is a spine of the entire week. Sun conjunct Saturn in your 10th house. So let's strip this all the way down here. The 10th house is not just career, Cancers. The 10th house is, how you are seen, how you are remembered, how you are respected. It's your public identity. So now we bring Saturn into that space. Saturn does not deal in potential. Saturn deals in proof, consistency, time, earned authority. So when Saturn meets the Sun here, this is not you just dreaming about who you want to be or what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to show up and how you want people to respond. These are not just dreams. This is the reality. This is reality asking, prompt number 2 already. This is reality asking, can you hold the weight of being that person every day? Again, let me repeat that. Can you hold the weight of being that person every day? Because Cancers, because the thing about it is, Cancers, you can become anything. That's not the issue. You can do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to, right? You can become anything, you can do anything. So that is not the issue. The real question is, can you sustain it when it stops being exciting? We're always, so gung-ho, so excited when we're initiating something or when we're first starting something out. We have all that momentum, right? All that excitement about our plans coming into fruition. We're actually, actualizing or materializing these plans. But what happens when weeks go by, months go by? Again, can you sustain this dream of yours, right, when it stops being exciting? That's another prompt. 3. That's prompt number 3. Definitely ask yourself that. So let's get a little deeper here, because this conjunction is happening at the beginning of the zodiac, and this is where it gets juicy, right? Which means that this is not just about your career, Cancers. It is not the beginning of the zodiac here. This is about the next 30-year cycle of your public life. And why this is about the next 30 years? Because it takes Saturn approximately 29 and a half years to move through the entire zodiac. And that's how long someone's career usually lasts, right? So when Saturn stands out, or when Saturn stands at the entrance or the threshold of Aries, it is rewriting the rules of what the next 30 years will demand from you. Again, Aries is at the beginning of the zodiac. So, and Aries is the exact opposite of everything that Saturn stands for, right? Because Aries is impulsive. It doesn't wait. Aries doesn't plan. Aries just go. Aries doesn't ask for permission. And Saturn is authority. Saturn is time. Saturn is structure. So we're talking about two malefics, or just two, I wouldn't say malefic. I'm thinking about Mars, but Aries, that's that type of energy. Like, it's going against everything that Saturn represents here, right? And so again, another prompt. So now ask yourself here, what happens when movement meets time? Movement, that's Aries, time, that is Saturn. What happens there? What happens when the part of you that just wants to go runs directly into the force that says, prove it? Prove that. Cancer, that is the moment. And here's where I need you to go even deeper than the surface level of astrology. Because, most people will say this. Oh, this is about discipline, because we're talking about Saturn, right? Oh, this is about responsibility. That's basic, Cancer. That is so entry level. And here's why, because this is something that's so much more deeper than that here. It's so much more serious. This is about timeline selection. And what I mean by that is, this is where you select, shift, or alter your personal life path, timeline, right? To align with your desired reality and or purpose. So you're going to be making some shifts, some decisions that is going to be aligning with who you truly are and where you're truly going. How do you want the public to perceive you and receive you, right? Because Saturn at the beginning of Aries is not continuing a story here. It's asking another prompt. Your girl got these prompts for your ass, okay? So yes, another prompt, because here it's asking you, what story is even worth building for the next 30 years? Do you know how long 30 years is? What can you see yourself doing when you don't want to, when you don't have the drive, when you don't have the motivation, when things are just not going the way you want them to go, how you perceive them or how you dreamt them? So again, the question is, the prompt is, What story is even worth building for the next 30 years? So let that sit, let that sink in. Really meditate on that. Really, think that out fully. Don't just rush into that. Because we're not talking about next week, not next month, Cancers. 30 years. Okay? So yeah, you definitely have to let that one sink in, right? And here's the part that I'm going to let you in on so you do not miss this. Because you don't get to build everything. You don't get to be everything. You don't get to chase every version of yourself anymore, Cancers. Because Saturn is here to collapse potential into reality. And reality requires elimination. Hey, look. Reality requires elimination. Prompt. So now the real question becomes, Cancer, what are you willing to not choose so that something else can actually exist? Again, what are you willing to not choose so something else can exist? You gotta let something go, right? Because Aries wants everything right now. But Saturn says, if you try to do everything, nothing will last. And this is where the pressure comes from. And this is where the pressure comes from. And it's not because something is wrong, but because something is finally getting real. You're owning it, you're saying it, you're stepping into it, you're becoming it, you're embodying it, Cancer. You are no longer in that phase of just imagining this, or imagining your dreams, or imagining your life. You are no longer in that phase of exploring your options. Again, something must be eliminated. You are now in a phase of deciding what your life is going to be built on. Again, legacy. And once that decision is made, Cancers, Saturn does not let you pretend that you didn't make it. Again, Saturn is authority. Saturn is going to hold you accountable. I'll make you realize you were just talking shit just for the sake of hearing yourself. Because real work has to go in behind whatever you're building in the 10th house. Again, responsibility is weight. It is heavy. It is not cute. It is not fun. So, if things feel heavier right now, if things feel more serious, if things feel like they actually matter more than they did before, Cancer, that's not a problem. That's alignment, because you gotta choose. Because time is no longer abstract for you. Time is now, watching your choices. And here's the final layer, because we can't forget about the sun in all of this. Because the sun is here too. We're talking about the sun conjunct Saturn here. The sun is your consciousness, your identity, your awareness of self. Which means this is not just happening externally. You can see it now. You can feel it now. You can't unknow it. You can't. You cannot unknow what you know now. So this isn't pressure from the outside world, Cancers. This is internal recognition that you're standing at the beginning of something that will define you. Right? So not what you are starting, right? Not what you are working on. But question, prompt. What are you choosing? What are you choosing, Cancers, that you are willing to live with for the next 30 years? That is a question you need to be asking yourself with this Sun conjunct Saturn transit. So let's move into the Sun sextile Pluto, 10th house, 8th house. And this aspect, the Sun sextile Pluto aspect, is what I call the power you cannot fake, baby. You can't fake this. So now that we've talked about the Sun conjunct Saturn, the spine of the week, now that time has entered the room, power responds. Let's get into it, right? Power responds because we have the Sun sextile Pluto. Sun in Aries, your 10th house. Pluto in Aquarius, your 8th house. So let's translate this without being basic, because we don't do no basic shit over here, okay? But anyway, so your public self is now in conversation with your private power. And here's what most people, right? What people do not understand when we're talking about power, when we're talking about this aspect. So let's get precise. Let's get surgical here. Because this is where the nuance actually matters, Cancers. This is not just power in a general sense. This is individual authority, Aries, meeting collective, systemic power. That is Aquarius. And this is where a lot of people misread this type of energy or misread what's happening, because Aries says, I lead, I move first, I define myself. But Aquarius says, you are not operating alone, whether you realize it or not. It is not me. It is not I. So now your 10th house of career, your visibility, your authority is being influenced by your 8th house Pluto. And that's just not emotions, Cancer, or trauma. When we're talking about the 8th house, this is about networks of power, invisible systems, collective influence. Again, you're not doing this alone. Energetic entanglement with others. Be mindful. So now the question is no longer, do you have power? Prompt time. The question becomes, do you understand the systems you're operating inside of? Because once you understand the systems that you are operating inside of, Cancers, that's where you unearth your real damn power. Again, prompt. Do you understand the systems that you are operating inside of? Yeah, think about that. Seriously. Because Aquarius does not deal with surface level control. Aquarius deals with patterns, structures, group dynamics. Right? Who holds influence behind the scenes? And Pluto here, Pluto is exposing where power is actually coming from versus where you thought it was coming from. So Cancers, this can look like a realization that your career isn't just about your effort alone. Your visibility isn't just about your talent alone. Your authority isn't just about your title alone. There are alliances, social ecosystems that are either supporting you or quietly limiting you. And that's why it's important for you to understand the systems that you're operating in so you can differentiate between the two. One is building you up, one is tearing you down. And here's the deeper layer here. The 8th house is intimacy, vulnerability, shared resources. But in Aquarius, that intimacy is not always emotional. Sometimes it's intellectual. Sometimes it's energetic. Sometimes it's transactional in ways you didn't consciously acknowledge. So now you have to ask yourself, prompt time. Who am I entangled with? And how is this shaping my power? Because Aries in the 10th wants independence, but Aquarius in the 8th says you are influenced by your environment more than you think, more than you know, more than you may realize. And if you're conscious of that, you can be pouring into systems that don't pour back, aligning with people who dilute your authority, participating in dynamics that quietly disempower you. But again, this is a sextile. So a sextile is an opportunity, because now you can restructure your power once you start understanding these systems that you are operating in. You can now restructure your power intelligently, not emotionally, not reactively, but strategically, Cancer. Because Aquarius is strategy. Aquarius is detachment. Aquarius is seeing the bigger picture without getting lost in it, but knowing exactly where you stand in it. So now, instead of asking, what do I need to do to be successful? Prompt time. You start asking, what systems do I need to align with or detach from to actually hold power? And that's the shift, because power is no longer about effort, Cancer. Power is about positioning yourself. That's true power. That's real power. Where you place yourself, who you align with, what you participate in, and what you refuse to engage with, entangle yourself with. So this week isn't just showing you your power, it's showing you the architecture your power exists within. So I hope you caught all that with that sun. With the sun sextiling Pluto here. So now we're going to move into the third aspect of this week. And now we have Venus conjunct Chiron. And I love this here. I love the Venus conjunct Chiron. This is Aries 10th house. And this is a theme, and this is bringing the theme of the wound of being first and still feeling unchosen. And this is such a good aspect. So let's go ahead and get into it, right? So now let's get into the Venus and Chiron conjunction here, because we have Venus conjunct Chiron in Aries in your 10th house. So this is not just about your self-worth here. This is about your self-worth and visibility. Because it's one way to value yourself and feel value behind the scenes, but it's another thing for you to put yourself out publicly where people can judge you. And then how does that affect your value or your self-value or your self-valuation of self, right? When you're having to put yourself out there, because 10th house is very public. So we're talking about, self-worth and leadership here. Self-worth and being seen first. Because Aries is not a passive sign. Aries is the initiated child. Aries is the one who do it first. Aries is ready to go. Aries is the trailblazer child. It's going to get shit popping. That's just Aries, right? It doesn't wait to be chosen. But here's the contradiction, because Chiron in Aries carries a very specific wound. And that is, what if I choose myself and still don't get chosen back? And when this sits in your 10th house, Cancers, this is not private insecurity. This is fear of being seen fully, fear of being visible and still overlooked, fear that your leadership won't be received. So you don't get to hide behind closed doors in the 10th house when you decide to put yourself out there. Honey, you just have to go. So even if externally you look confident, because Aries energy can perform confidence, but Chiron exposes where that confidence isn't fully anchored or developed. So now Venus comes in, amplifying that, amplifying desire, attention, attraction, and visibility. And what I love about it here is because Aries is in that last degree. She's in her last degrees as she is, getting ready to exit out of Aries. And so the reason why this is so important is because you're going to want to face that head on, because Aries' next stop is Taurus. She's home. But that's in your 11th house, and we will talk about that later. But again, she's in her final degrees. So it's very imperative for you to do the work, move, even if you're not, fully sure how things are going to pan out. Move anyway. If you have that dream, if you're confident enough to get started, just keep going and it will get better. Right? So instead of it feeling good immediately, Cancer, it might feel exposed. You may feel exposed. You may feel vulnerable, slightly uncomfortable, because now it's not just I want to be seen. It's, can I handle being seen without shrinking myself? Prompt. Can I handle being seen without shrinking myself? Cancer, show up as you are. And it's so imperative that you do. And I'm going to explain why as we continue, throughout the video here, right? So we're going to take this a little deeper, right? Can you, again, I want to repeat that prompt again. Can I handle being seen without shrinking myself? Put a star by that, an asterisk, highlight it, underline it, do all the above. So we're going to go a little bit deeper here, Cancers, because this isn't just about how others see you. This is about you seeing yourself clearly. You got to understand who you are, because some people may not like it. They may push back. They may drop in the comments, say some crazy stuff. And that's why your feet have to be planted, and you have to know who you are and be comfortable with who you are and what you're bringing to the collective, right? Because if there is any part of you that still believes, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I have to tone this down for it to be accepted, that will show up in your 10th house. Not as failure, but as hesitation at the moment of expansion. And Cancers, when expansion is ready to meet you, you want to be able to meet it. So the healing here is not, let me fix myself. The healing is, I'm willing to be fully visible, even if parts of me still feel exposed. Because Aries doesn't wait for perfection. Aries moves anyway. So this week, you're being asked to lead while you're still healing, while you're still becoming more confident in those wounds, right? Or with those wounds. And so let's move into our next aspect, and that is Mercury in Pisces, your 9th house, square Lilith in Sagittarius, your 6th house. Baby, this is carrying the theme of, spiritual truth versus daily self-portrayal. And I'm going to explain this. So now let's sharpen this mentally here. We have Mercury square Lilith. Mercury in Pisces in your 9th, Lilith in Sagittarius in your 6th. So this is not just communication tension. This is tension between what you spiritually know is true. That's Pisces, your 9th house, and how you're actually living every day. That's Sagittarius in your 6th house. Now let's break this down properly, because Mercury and Pisces in your 9th, that's not logical thinking. That's intuitive knowing, Cancers, spiritual awareness, expanded perception. And we just came out of a Mercury retrograde. I'm trying not to get too ahead. I'm trying not to get too ahead. So you already feel the truth. You already sense what's aligned. But Lilith in Sagittarius in your 6th house, Cancers, that's where things start to get a little uncomfortable, because Sagittarius is truth, wisdom. But Lilith here, Lilith says, you know the truth, so why aren't you living it? I love Lilith, because Lilith ain't going, okay? She just not going. Lilith says you know the truth, so why aren't you living it? She's so confrontational. Am I the drama? That's Lilith. Girl, yes. But anyway, and the 6th house, baby, that's your habits, routines, daily decisions, and work environment. So this square exposes, Cancer. This square exposes the gap between your higher truth and your daily behavior. Not your intentions, not your ideas, your behavior. What you actually doing, not what you doing up here, not what you're thinking, but what you're actually doing, your behavior. It exposes that gap. Because it's easy to think spiritually, talk about alignment. It's so easy to do that. I mean, we do it all the time. To understand your path. But the 6th house asks, prompt time, what are you actually doing every single day? What are you doing every single day? And Lilith doesn't sugarcoat anything. Lilith don't sugarcoat shit. So if you're looking for that, this ain't it. Lilith will show you where you're settling, where you're overextending, where you're tolerating misalignment in your life, in your daily rhythm. No, not in big ways. No, not in big ways, but in subtle, consistent ways that erode your power over time. And by the time you realize, you will not have any leverage at all. Because you just done played yourself. Right? So this is not confrontation. This is not confusion. I'm sorry. This is not confusion. This is confrontation. And the truth here is, Cancers, that you don't need more clarity. You need more integrity with what you already know. And that is where your power actually comes from. That is where your power actually comes from. And the reason why you don't need any more thinking, because, we just had that Mercury retrograde. So you're knowing exactly what you're wanting to do. You've had enough time to think about it. You know what you want to do. Why do you hesitate? That may be a deeper question for you. A prompt on the fly. Why do I hesitate when it comes to my dreams, when it comes to my daily rhythm, my habits, my health, my routines? Why am I hesitating? Because that's where you're letting your power just go. You're not tapping into it. It's going dormant there. So here we are, moving into our next aspect, and that is Saturn in Aries, sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. Again, 10th and 8th house being activated here. This aspect is what I like to call, this is building power that doesn't collapse. Now, this is where everything we talked about stops being like conceptual and starts becoming structural here, because we have Saturn sextile Pluto. We have Saturn in Aries in your 10th house again, those same themes, right? And then we have Pluto in Aquarius in your 8th. So I'm not going to rush this. I'm actually going to take my time with this a little bit, because this is not just another transit, Cancers. This is the relationship between time and power. Again, Saturn, time, Pluto, power. And Saturn in Aries is already a paradox, because Saturn is discipline, Saturn is structure, Saturn is patience. And Aries is anything but that. Aries doesn't wait. Aries doesn't plan. Aries moves. So Saturn here is forcing a question. Prompt time. Can you be intentional without losing your momentum? Not slow yourself down, but stabilize your direction. Because Aries energy without structure, it starts fast, but burns out faster. Now add Pluto to the mix. Pluto in Aquarius. In the 8th, this is where it gets deeper. Pluto is transformation, pressure, evolution through intensity. And in Aquarius, that power is not personal. It's systemic. It's collective. It's embedded in networks, ecosystems, Cancer, invisible structures. And in the 8th house, that power is shared, exchanged, entangled. So now let's bring all of this together here. You have Saturn in Aries saying, take full responsibility for your path, lead it. And Pluto in Aquarius saying, you are not building in isolation. Everything you do exists within a system. So the tension here is subtle, but it is real, because the part of you wants to say, I got this. I'll figure it out. I'll make it happen. I'll carry it. I'll do this. I'll do that. Cancer, but this energy is asking you to evolve beyond that. To ask, prompt time, what am I building and what is it connected to? Again, what am I building and what is it connected to? Because here's a truth that most people don't want to face here, Cancers. You can build something with pure willpower and it still don't last. It still doesn't last. It won't last. How many people have started a business and it didn't last? And it's not because you're not capable, but because it's not structurally supported. And this is where Saturn and Pluto work together. Saturn says, build it correctly. Pluto says, build it in alignment with reality. or it will collapse. So let's get even deeper with this one, because this is a good one. We're talking about time and power here. We're talking about structure, but transformation. Because this is not just about career. This is not just about ambition. This is about who you are becoming through what you are building. Because as you build, Cancers, you're going to evolve. You're going to transform. You're going to go through these rebirth cycles. Because you're going to be learning about yourself. You're going to be, finding out how confident you truly are, how remarkable you truly are, and how powerful and talented you really are. And you're going to be so surprised at how well people do receive you. Saturn in Aries in the 10th, Cancers, is shaping your identity as a leader, not as a follower, not as someone waiting for permission. A leader. But Pluto in Aquarius in the 8th is asking prompt time. What kind of leader are you within a collective? Are you collaborative, strategic, aware of power dynamics? Or are you still operating like everything depends on you alone? Because Cancers, with that mindset, that's what this transit is breaking. And we're going to go even deeper, because the 8th house is also contracts, shared resources, energetic agreements. So this can show up as a realization that not every opportunity is aligned. Not every collaboration is equal. Not every system deserves your energy. And Saturn here gives you and Saturn here, why do I feel like I just blinked 9,000 times? And Saturn here gives you the discipline to say no. Not emotionally, not reactively, but strategically. Because every yes is a commitment of your time. And time, that is Saturn's domain. So now you're being asked, prompt time, what is worth your time long term? Like, what is worth your time long term? What is worth my time long term? Not what excites you for a moment. Not what looks good right now or in the moment, in the heat of things, in the height of it all. But what actually holds weight over time. And this is where your power stabilizes, not in a big moment, not in a breakthrough, but in what you commit to, what you repeat, what you refine over and over and over again. That is Pluto playing out with the transformation, you're evolving, the restructuring, the dismantling of yourself and building you over again. You're going to continue to get dragged by Pluto. Right? Pluto is bringing out that power. So you're going to be shedding new skin, like shedding old skins and stepping into new ones over and over and over again. Because power is not built in intensity. Power is built in consistency, Cancer. And this sextile here, it gives you the ability to align both power and consistency. Again, Pluto power, Saturn is consistency. So this sextile, it gives you the ability to align both, to move with intention while building something that actually lasts. So this is no longer about what do I feel like doing. Prompt time. This is about what am I willing to show up for consistently until it becomes who I am. Again, Cancers, what am I willing to show up for consistently until it becomes who I am. Again, Saturn sitting over there, your 10th house. This is your legacy. And your legacy is who you become. It's a part of you. Your legacy is synonymous to your name, to your bloodline. And finally, we've reached our last transit. And this is a transit, not an aspect. Venus enters into Taurus, your 11th house, by the end of the month, or at the end of the month. And this carries a theme of aligned value through the right people. And see, that's why it was so important for Venus in those last degrees to meet Chiron on her way out. Because now Venus has entered into Taurus, and you need to be able to, you may not be fully healed as you're doing what you're doing, but the thing about it is here, Cancers, the thing about it is here, now you understand what your wounds are. You know what they are, so no one can, use them against you. Now you know what you still, and you're realizing, hey, I'm still worth this. I still find value here. I can still enrich someone's life here. My wound is my testimony. My wound has become part of my value. It's very important for you to understand that, because now, a couple of days later, Venus is entering into Taurus, your 11th house. So in Taurus, she's home. Venus is home. And this is where everything shifts from internal to external. Because Taurus is not about chasing. And see, that's why it's so important for you to understand those wounds and start to, do the work to heal around them, because Taurus don't chase a damn thing. Taurus is about stabilizing, holding, embodying value. And your 11th house, Cancer, that's networks, friendships, collaborations, long-term visions. As you notice this week, you have 2 houses that are being activated that deal with networks, your 8th house as well as your 11th house. So I'm telling you, over these next couple of months, you're going to be meeting individuals, and you need to understand who you are, who the fuck you are. You need to understand that. So now the question is no longer, what do I want? Prompt time. The question becomes, who am I aligned with that reflects what I value? Because Venus in Taurus doesn't force connections. It attracts. She attracts. Aligned people, supportive environments, opportunities that feel natural. But here's the nuance, Cancer. Here's the nuance. You don't get this just because you want it. You don't get it just because you want it. You get this because your values are now stable enough to recognize it. Are you ready for expansion? Are you really ready? Write that impromptu prompt down and meditate on that as well. So, now you're not chasing validation or attention or random opportunities. You're aligning with what actually sustains you long term with this transit. And that does include people, because the 11th house will show you who's truly aligned, who's just familiar, who supports your growth, and who subtly drains it. And Taurus doesn't rush decisions. Taurus observes, Taurus feels, Taurus decides slowly. but permanently. So this is where your life starts to level out and stabilize. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer entertaining what isn't aligned. And when you know your value, when you understand your wounds, they become your greatest strength. You think about that. When you understand your wounds that you carry and you accept them, those wounds can become your greatest ally. They become your greatest power. Because now you know what's going on. You know what you're facing. You know what you're dealing with. So you can move accordingly. Now let's talk about the actual shift here. Let's talk about Venus actually entering into the sign of Taurus, right? So again, Venus is leaving Aries and entering into Taurus. And that alone changes everything, because Venus in Aries says, I want it. I'm going to go get it. But the moment Venus enters into Taurus, the energy drops, Cancers, into the body. It's embodied. It's felt. So now it's more so about, is this worth my time? Is this worth my time? Think about that. Does this feel stable? Can I actually keep this? So this is not just a transit. This is a shift in how you relate to value itself. Because Venus is not just love, Cancers. Venus is value, attraction, receptivity. What you allow into your life here. So when Venus changes signs, your standards change, your desires refine, your tolerance shifts. So everything that was activated earlier this week, the visibility, the power dynamics, the emotional exposure, now gets filtered through one question: prompt time. Is this actually aligned with what I value long term? Now you add Taurus to the mix. Again, Taurus is Venus's home. So Venus is not struggling here. Venus here is not experimenting. Venus here is fully resourced, fully backed. This is where Venus says, I don't have to chase. I don't have to prove. I don't have to convince, persuade, because I attract what matches me. And here's the key. And it's not what you want. It's what matches you. Because Taurus doesn't respond to potential. Taurus responds to consistency and embodiment. What you exude. Again, attraction is what you exude. Effortlessly. So now Venus is asking, are your values consistent, embodied, lived daily? Now you're understanding why Lilith is over there eating your ass up in your 6th house. Because this is what you're doing daily, not some of the times, not every other week, not when you get paid, but every single damn day. Because you never know who you're going to run into, who you're going to meet, right? Or are these just still ideas floating around in your head still? Because what Venus and Taurus brings in is a direct reflection of what you have stabilized within yourself. And adding that 11th house, That's the right people, right spaces, the right opportunities. But again, not because you're chasing them, but because you now recognize them. And here's a deeper layer for you, Cancer. Venus in Taurus is not just about receiving. It's about what you're willing to hold on to. Because receiving is easy. Sustaining, that's a different story. Prompt time. So now the question becomes, Cancer, can you maintain what aligns with you without sabotaging it? Because sometimes alignment feels unfamiliar. Sometimes stability feels boring compared to chaos. But Taurus teaches you, peace is not boring. Consistency is not lack. Stability is not stagnation. So this is where your life starts to shift steadily. Because now you're no longer entertaining misalignment, inconsistency, temporary validation. You're choosing what actually holds you. And that's when life stops feeling like you're chasing it or something that you're chasing. And life starts feeling like something you're finally able to receive and keep it. And the last bit that I wanted to leave you all with is, you notice how we're having this 30-year reset with regards to your 10th house themes, right? But right before all of this is happening, well, right before we're starting over with the astrological new year, we had that amazing Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So we're talking about 12 months. So that Mercury retrograde wasn't just about the 9th house per se, but again, 9th house talks about wisdom, philosophies, higher perspectives. It was really about what you have learned or experienced over the last year. How did that bring wisdom into your life? How did it change your perspective? How did that add flavor or nuance or depth to your philosophy and how you govern your life every day? How did that expand your view? Everything, all the encounters, everybody you met, the jobs, the co-workers, the associates, the friends, the colleagues, the situationships, the relationships, family members, whatever you went through, the gains, the losses, how did that add depth to your life? How did you write these things down? Literally, think about what you have been through in the last 12 months. From the spring of last year to the spring of this year, what has actually happened in your life and how has that broadened you? How has that shaped you? Because these are the themes that are going to be going into the new astrological year with you. So that retrograde was so on point right before we hit the reset button for the astrological new year. So think about all those things and how it's going to be shaping you moving forward here. And so you know your girl did not just leave you hanging, right? So you know there is an amazing reading covering all of this energy. We're going to be getting into, what's holding you back. Where is your power silently humming and where it's ready to be released? We're going to be unveiling all of that over into the reading. That's specifically for the rest of March over on Patreon. Again, there are tons already videos loaded up on Patreon to help you get you guys caught up. If you're having any questions, you want to go back and do some studying here, you can subscribe to the membership, or just pay for each reading individually as you see fit, so you can go ahead and do more prompts, more note taking, more studying. This is for those who are really serious about alignment, not just love, but again, their career, their legacy, their finances. I mean, where their life is really going, not just love alone, but real alignment. And the thing about it is, Cancer, you meet the real people when you truly start aligning your life. Anybody in between that paper, they're just gonna be a karmic person here to teach you a lesson. And you know, lessons sometimes, most of the time, majority of the time, it comes with a little heartache. So again, this is for those who are really ready to really step into that new timeline. I mean, collapse the hell out of it. So you can find all those readings along with this one right over on Patreon. Thank you for staying with me. I really appreciate your time, your love, and just your presence. And as always, my babes, vibe high.